Hi folks, welcome to Friday. I trust that you've had a good reading week. And on that subject, what have I been reading? I read The Siege of Burning Grass by Premee Mohamed. And the backdrop to this tale is one of war between two empires. A familiar enough trope in genre fiction. But the root cause or rationale for this conflict isn't clear. It's kind of lost in time, other than perhaps for conquest's sake. And this war has been going on for years. The protagonist is Alafret. He's a pacifist and a founder member of something called the Pact, which is a loose affiliation of like-minded individuals that want an end to the war. Their lofty ideals really boil down to the preservation of human life, an ideal for which no sacrifice they consider is too great. In the months preceding the start of the book, Alafret, who's a giant of a man and, let's say, less than classically beautiful, is held prisoner by his own side, interned in an old school for the correction of ill-disciplined children. Alafret has also lost a leg, having been caught in a bombing, also by his own side, and has been tortured for information that either he doesn't have or he won't reveal, remembering that no sacrifice is too great. There are some really nice touches early on, I thought, which set the scene from a world-building point of view. Alafret is being treated by a crazy doctor, a sort of Joseph Mengele-type character, who believes that he can regrow Alafret's leg. And as part of that process and to manage his pain, Alafret must carry with him a small cage containing something called a dispensary wasps, which periodically come out of the cage and sting him, injecting one drug or another. And there's electricity in this world and other mod cons that we might recognise, cars, tanks and such, but also light spiders, which, like a glowworm, I suppose, will collectively provide a dim light. The two sides exist in a state of total war. Our army recruits are getting younger as campaigns ebb and flow, chewing up the fighting age population. And some of them are now little more than children. Alafret is persuaded to accompany one of his guards, the unpleasant and violent Kudor, on a secret infiltration mission to an enemy citadel. And not just any city, by the way, a flying or floating city. How does it float, we inevitably wonder? Magic? Bearing in mind that he's a card-carrying pacifist, Alafret is persuaded to participate only on the basis that it might prevent a greater harm. It might end the war, saving potentially millions of lives. And this is his fundamental conflict. People will inevitably die in this mission. Is their death a price, a sacrifice worth paying? So The Siege of Burning Grass is a meditation then on war, on pacifism, and on messy compromise, on personal conflict and sacrifice. Which I'll confess does not sound like a barrel of laughs, does it? And of course, it's impossible to read this without considering present-day conflict, wars of conquest or of suppression. Premee Mohamed layers on top of this gloomy, serious foundation a really wonderful feat of world building. I enjoy both the little details, the engineered creatures, and the big, floating city, for example. I enjoyed the characters, the kind of opposites of Alafret and Kudor, both of whom are forced to compromise their principles, their beliefs, in the course of their mission. There are no straightforward choices. Each is fraught with moral complexity. I thought that the pace was good. It didn't dwell over long on any one scene, and there was a nice science fiction reveal towards the end that I thought was done pretty well. This is the first of her books that I've read, and I think I may well seek out more. I enjoyed it, from the possibly sublime to the definitely slightly ridiculous, or at least in parts. This is Lincolnstein by Paul Witcover, and I guess the question is, what do you get if you combine Mary Shelley and Mark Twain and possibly throw in a bit of, Harry Turtledove? It's a strange cake recipe, certainly, but did it taste any good? The premise of this one is a bit silly, if I'm completely honest. The book opens with a Captain Finn and his sidekick Jim, a former slave, sounding familiar perhaps, as they barely escape a mission to kidnap a scientist from the Confederate side of the line. Abraham Lincoln has been shot dead, much as he was in our world. But though the war is theoretically over, the peace is fragile and conflict simmers. The Confederates are not entirely done. Lincoln was seen as essential to closing out the conflict for good. So what to do? Well, as the title and the cover illustration suggest, the obvious and entirely realistic plan is to reanimate Lincoln using the brain of another, Captain Finn's sidekick, Jim, who's conveniently dead by this point. And it's now that the identity of the scientist that they kidnapped is strongly hinted at. And this all happens in the opening pages of the book. And the rest of the book, which is really a novella, is not very long, is concerned with Jim/Lincoln's pell-mell dash across the country. He's aiming for Mississippi. He's hell-bent on finding his long-lost family, who are still enslaved despite the victory of the Union. Captain Finn, can you guess his first name, is in hot pursuit. Surviving numerous misadventures along the way, the two find their way to a country estate of the mysterious and corpulent Major Despain. They find, well, let's just say that they find more than they bargained for. And the ending is an absolute bloodbath as multiple betrayals and deceptions come to a very messy head. Like many, I read and enjoyed The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and, of course, Tom Sawyer too when I was a youngster. And so it was fun to be reacquainted with some of the folks in that book, although considerably older than they were in those original stories and not necessarily wiser. So despite the silly premise, Witcover mainly plays it straight. It's a drama, not a comedy. And it's a good read. It moves along briskly and it's done in 150 pages. So it is not a difficult read. I don't know that I'd recommend it as such. And it's not actually that easy to find because it was a small press publisher. But you can find it. It's probably available as an ebook. If you liked those Mark Twain books, and if you are a fan of Frankenstein and kind of monsters like that in general, and you want to layer on top of that a little bit of Civil War politics and good old-fashioned race relations, let's say, then this might be the book for you. So tell me, what have you been up to this week? Have you read anything that you'd particularly like to recommend? Then if you have, then do let us know in the comments down below. Channel stuff next then, briefly. Subscriptions are at 5,910, which is up 38 on last week. And if you are one of those 38, or if you've just stumbled across my channel for the first time today, then a huge welcome to you all. I'm John, and I focus on collecting, reading, and waffling on about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from David Heath, who really likes the channel. So that's good. So far, so good. But, and it is a big but, he continues to be irritated by all accounts, by how I pronounce, or I guess in his view, mispronounce the word "the." I'm not honestly sure how I can be considered to mispronounce "the." There's only so many ways to pronounce that one-syllable word, I would have thought. So that did leave me a little bit bemused. But anyway, thank you to David for taking the time to share that, vital piece of criticism, and I'll certainly take that on board. I won't really. That's just how I say it, I'm afraid. But anyway, thank you to David for taking the time, and to all of you that do the same. I do really appreciate it. So let's take a look at what was on the channel this week. And the answer to that is not a lot. Sunday, there was a recap of May's reading. So that was a rundown of all 11 science fiction books that I read during May. And as usual, I tier rank those and then ultimately declare a book of the month. And that was it. I had plans to do an overview of the Venture SF series now that I have all 25 of them, but I just didn't quite get to that this week. As I said before, I think June is going to be slim pickings one way and another, with just weekends taken up with other stuff. On the book buying front, well, it might be that I have to put myself in book buying jail again, or maybe I just need to get busy acquiring more shelving. The infamous suitcase full of books has wended its way across the Atlantic, couriered most ably by Whitney, she of Secret Source of Storycraft, and they are now all in my possession. And in fact, I've already recorded the haul video that goes with that, and the books have been crammed, and I do mean crammed, mostly anyway, onto my groaning shelves. Whitney and I also went book shopping. That was our plan for the day, with a visit to Zardos Books, and particularly their £1 stacks, of which there are many, and then on to perhaps more refined fare at Bob's down in Dorset. Books were bought, unsurprisingly, but those books will appear in the July haul video, and the to-be haul pile for that now stands at 27 books. As I said at the beginning, I might need to dial it back a bit, and I might even remove the haul video from the roster for a few months. I do think there's an element of one driving the other, and potentially not in an entirely healthy manner. On the other hand, who am I kidding? Let's take a quick look ahead. On Sunday, there will definitely be June's book haul. That video is recorded, it's edited, and it's produced, so I just need to upload it. And that will cover all of the books that Whitney brought across the Atlantic for me. And believe me, it is a good haul. As I said, I didn't get to the overview of the Venture SF series last week, although it is now complete. I have all 25. I do need to do a little bit of preparation for that video, but I'm hoping that will also appear during the week. Whilst we're talking about what's coming up next Friday, so the 20th of June, there will not be a weekly update unless I'm exceptionally well organised and record it the day before, because I'll be on my way up to Newcastle, which is 200 or 300 miles up the road to collect my oldest daughter from university for the final time. But after that, we'll see how we get on. So what will I be reading in the coming week? I am currently reading The Sky Inside by Sean Williams, and this is a short story collection. I've read one and a half now, I think. I've not read anything by Sean Williams before, and this was a book that came to me in my sort of lucky dip purchase of 10 mystery books from PS Publishing. Mystery in that I didn't know what they were. So it's a good way to introduce yourself to an unfamiliar author. It's a concentrated but bite-sized blast of his work, and so I'll be able to tell if I get on with his style or not, and so far so good. So that's that. So that's pretty good, some short story action. And then if I finish that, or if I decide I've had enough, and I'm inclined to do that sometimes with short story collections, I don't feel the need to finish them in the same way as I might with a novel. Anyway, either I've finished it or I've just decided to move on. I'm going to tackle Mary Doria Russell's Children of God, which is, of course, is the sequel, some argue unnecessary sequel, to Sparrow. Or The Sparrow, which is a much better known piece of work. So I'm going to give it a bash. I did enjoy Sparrow. It was a bit overlong maybe. I do hear that this is not as good. So that's next. And then on audiobook, I'm still wading my way through The Passage, which is a pretty chunky book. And it's about 35 hours or something like that on audiobook if you were listening to it on usual speed. But I do listen. I think I've got this going on 1.75 speed on Audible. And it's still 20 hours in total. I think I've got 6.5 hours left. So I may finish this by the time oh no, there isn't one. I was about to say I may finish this by the time we speak next week, but there isn't going to be a weekly update next week. So you have to wait until the following week or potentially the end of month wrap up to hear about that one. I am enjoying it. It's could it have been a bit shorter? I think probably could, but it's okay. As always, thank you for watching. Have a fabulous weekend, and until next time, goodbye for now.